So back in 2019, I was on the football pitch warming up and my heart just felt funny. I was getting like an overwhelming feeling of like a fish flopping in my chest is the best way to describe it, and I was getting a little bit lightheaded and just didn't feel right, but carried on with the warm-up, went into the first practice and like things started to get a little bit worse. So I came out of the practice and started to go like quite dizzy, so I came to the side. My dad drove to pick me up, we went to the hospital and they ran like loads of tests and they said that my heart was in atrial flutter, which is a condition where your heart beats irregularly, so like the top two chambers beat at a different time to the lower ones.
Okay.
And it causes this flutter, so it feels literally like weak and floppy in your chest and you're a bit like out of breath, trying to catch it all the time, and it can cause like a little bit of dizziness and like not numb but weird feelings in your arm.
Yes.
So I spent all night in A&E, but then they discharged me with the symptoms, like I was still in atrial flutter. So I went home and then the next day I was taken back up to hospital by ambulance where they said like it's really bad, it's in flutter still, and it had been in flutter for like 18 hours. And there's a period of time where like something to do with the blood thickens, so there's a time where you have to either revert it back into its normal rhythm by a defib, or you have to then go on blood thinners and then they'll put you to sleep and do it a bit later on. But it had gotten to the point where I was past the window of where they could just put me to sleep and defib it back, so I had to go through all the rigmarole of going onto a ward and it being in flutter for, I think it was in the end 2.5 days before they could like put me on the blood, so I was having blood thinners through a needle in my tummy, and then they were able to then put me to sleep in one of the cath labs and electric shock me, like stop my heart to start it again with it, the hope, because it's usually very successful, but there is a chance that it won't go into its normal sinus rhythm. So they did that, it was fine, and then they said that the long-term solution will be a catheter ablation, which is a procedure where, again, they usually put you to sleep, and then they go in through the groin with these like catheters and I don't know, probes, and it goes up into the heart and they're able to fiddle with the electrics because it's an electrical problem, like the electrics are firing at random different times, which causes the palpitations and the flutters.
So it's quite a very evasive what they do.
So they put the catheters in and like do what's like an investigation to see where it's coming from, and then they ablate the area. So I think it's freezing it, so it cuts off the electrical current to stop the irregular beats. So my first surgery was 5 hours. The consultant said I was really stubborn because he thought he had the electrical problem sorted, but then they do the more tests and whatnot, but it was still coming back, and it turned out that the current was coming at the back of my heart, which he eventually got, and then went home, recovered, and then for the first 3 months everything was great, it was sorted, and then I started experiencing flutter episodes again. So had to then go back and get tested and make sure it was flutter. Mm-hmm. And then we went into lockdown, the first lockdown in the March, and I was doing a home workout and my heart went into flutter, and I knew it was really serious at this point. Because it shouldn't have gone into flutter, but it did. But I knew the feeling was really bad, and I have this not coping mechanism, but when it happens, sometimes I'm able to do this really loud breath, and sometimes it'll flip, it'll stop the flutter. But I was doing it and I couldn't get out of the flutter. Went up to the hospital, me and my mum, and then I had to be put to sleep in A&E to be defibbed again to get it out of the atrial flutter. which like the whole thing of having to go into hospital, and especially when you're being put to sleep and it's to do with your heart, like it was like really emotional.
Yeah, would you say that, because obviously it's sort of what you've spoken about in terms of the invasive surgery physically, and that's stopping you playing football, but I suppose it's also that emotional and then that mental impact that has on you as a person as well.
Yeah, it's like unbelievable. I'm getting a bit emotional. No, just give me a second. No, oh gosh.
It's a lot to contend with.
Yeah, so all the emotional side, like when you're in the moment, you don't think about it because it's there and then and it's happening. But when you're signing the papers, because you have to sign the papers to say what could go wrong, it then hits you. And obviously, I couldn't have anyone in the A&E resus room when I was being defibbed, so I had it done and came back round. And then it was a waiting game through COVID to get my second surgery because this first one wasn't successful. So I then had my second surgery in the September of 2020.
2020,
yeah.
Okay.
Which again went really well, we thought, but I was still having little problems. But like, because I don't like to worry my family, and I was trying to cover it up and like pretend that what was happening wasn't.
Yes.
So that was really difficult because I was keeping it to myself.
Yeah, holding it in.
And anyway, it wasn't successful, and I had to have a third surgery after a gym session again. I was doing a workout and my heart went into atrial flutter. And at first, I was like, "No, I'll be all right. It's not happening. I don't want to go up to hospital." And James, my boyfriend, was like, "We should go because I was in flutter for 5.5 hours."
Right, oh, wow, so a significant amount of time.
So James took me up, and they were like, "Yeah, this is serious. Like, you're in flutter. We need to put you on the ward, and we're going to treat you in the morning," because at this point it was like 2 a.m. So when I say in the morning, like a normal time.
Yeah.
So then this was during like the tier system and lockdown, so I was on my own, which was hard.
Yeah.
So then I went up to the ward and was settled, and then they said they were gonna defib me again, which I got really upset about because it's just not nice to go through.
Yeah,
and especially having to have gone through it twice before. Like I was worked up, and James and my mum were actually coming in the car with like some of my stuff when I just found out. So I was in quite a state when I was FaceTiming them on the way. And then literally 2 minutes after they told me they were doing that, they said, "No, we're not doing that. We're going to treat to cure," which was
a release to hear.
The third surgery. Yeah, so they said, "We're going to treat you as an inpatient," which was hard because there's a lot of things that I saw and heard in there at the time, which was really difficult, but it was the best way to get cured, if you would, quickly. So I didn't have to wait months. It was just a week. So on the Sunday night from midnight, I had to fast all the way until the surgery, whatever time that would be, whether it be morning, noon or in the afternoon. So the whole day went by, and it got to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were like, "No, it's not today, sorry." So then I'd starved all day, and the emotional, like, I'm on my own because we're in lockdown, I'm doing this on my own, and like kind of just not psyching myself up, but just like logically thinking and like just trying to calm myself down, was doing that all day. Didn't happen. And they were like, "Tuesday, it's gonna get done." So I had to fast again from midnight.
Wow,
Tuesday,
for the second day.
Yeah, Tuesday came, went, didn't have the surgery. So Wednesday came, and they were like, "Right, we'll hopefully have you today." So I fast again from midnight, and then it gets to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were like, "Right, you're going for surgery." And I'd literally just woken up from a nap at this point, so I was like, "Right, okay." Right, so I get all gowned up, transported down to the cath lab and meet with the surgeon, and I'm near enough signing the paperwork. And then he comes back and says, no, there's no anaesthetist. So then I have to go all the way back up to the ward, and like the rush and the stress of what has just happened and the adrenaline was like so overwhelming. So then I come back up to the ward, and then they were like, right, tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to get it done. So then I fasted again from midnight. Wow. And then Thursday actually came, and I was the first patient in.
So that was it. It was Thursday.
It was Thursday.
Go ahead. But
yes.
Having had three days of fasting, and then
and the psychological, right, we're going.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
It's a lot to contend with.
Yeah. So that was really, really difficult. So then I came out of the surgery the day after I was discharged, and then I could start my recovery, which was a really, really hard recovery. Not just physically, because I mean physically I couldn't do anything because I was in pain from 6 hours worth of prodding at my heart essentially. And obviously the tiredness of the anaesthetic wearing off, and just tiredness and fatigue, but the mental and emotional side of it was really, really tough. And I was breaking down all the time. I was panicking, and I didn't have a coping mechanism, because my coping mechanism is playing football.
With that taken away.
Or going to the gym for a workout, and that was all taken away from me, and I couldn't do that I couldn't work out for 6 weeks. So that was all taken away from me, and I was just a shell of myself. Like I looked healthy to look at and looked happy, but the reality was I was already crumbled inside. Like I was so broken and low and upset, and I didn't know how to deal with feelings, and I was constantly worrying about other people, because I didn't want them to know how upset and how much I couldn't cope.
So you felt like you were sort of putting a brave face on for the benefit of other people.
There was like a wall, and I was just trying to keep everything in, and then it just got too much, and I needed to get some professional help
and speak to somebody
and speak with someone. So I got some counselling, which helped, and I just let myself be vulnerable at the end of the day, and just cried when I needed to, and be upset when I needed to, and just accept that that's who I am in that moment. And
as I'm sure many people watching this will also say,
and it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it was the best thing that I could have done by just being emotional and open and honest, and it definitely helped.
A key part of recovery, I would imagine.
Emotionally, mentally, definitely worth. If anyone struggles, it's definitely reach out, because talking helps, and listening to what people have to say, because their advice sometimes is what you need to hear.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a remarkable thing to have gone through. In how old are you now?
I'm 26, so I started at 24.
So it's to have gone through that at a young age as well. What do you think you've taken from all that? I mean, football aside, just even as a person, I know the saying of what it makes you stronger, but
definitely stronger. But I'd say just being grateful for the little things. So before all this happened, like I really loved to work out, and whether that was on the football pitch or the gym, and then this happened, and that was taken away from me. So I was always grateful for being able to work out, because I know that there's hundreds of thousands of people that don't have that blessing. But since all the health issues I've had, I definitely don't take that for granted anymore. And one thing I say all the time is, if you have legs that will carry you and a heart that will push you, then use it.
And do it,
for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of a timeline with Burnley, if you talk us through at which point that you signed and where you were in your recovery.
Okay, so I had a conversation with the manager in March 2021, and everything that we spoke about, I was sure that whether I was going to be healthy the week after or a month or two after, whatever it was, that I wanted to come to Burnley and play. Had the third surgery, but the manager was like, don't worry about it, we still want you here, we're going to back you all the way. however long it takes, but we're not going anywhere. And he made it really clear that this was going to be the club that I came to. So I didn't have to worry about that, which was great.
Yeah, did that help? That?
And then once I'd had the surgery, I came down to just a couple of training sessions just to watch, and again was like, this is where, like, I was so excited because there'd been such a long period where I'd been without football because of the health condition, and I was like, right, yeah, this is somewhere that I want to play. Yeah, and I just was buzzing about it. And then July came, signed on officially, and then spent a lot of time with Eve, and had a programme kind of tailored to what I needed to do, and returned to selection dates. So there was always goals along the way, but as the weeks went by, like, there was so many ups and downs because I was having like fit for selection dates, but I just was so far behind and just was nowhere near ready. And it was like, keep going. Yeah. But like at the same time, I was so sad. Like, there was a period of time in like September, October where I was just crying so much, like, away from football, because I thought, is it actually going to be possible to get back on the field? And like, the manager had obviously had conversations with me about like my role and what they want from me, and I was excited for that. And at that point in time, I couldn't even be in a squad practice because my body just wasn't ready. And I would be working with Eve and like would have a great session, and then literally the session the next day I could have like an issue, and it felt like I was taking steps back. And I remember I was like, I'd done like a bit of running or whatever, and I was like bent over, and I remember looking in at one of the possession practices, and like I could feel my eyes tearing because I was like, I am so far away from being able to play at that intensity. But I kept going, and weeks went by, and I started to make some good progress, and then got to finally do some squad practices, and just gone
built from there.
Yeah, it's built from there, really.
So in terms of, it was squad practices, it was building up fitness, and then you finally, the big breakthrough, a moment came when you featured in the Middlesbrough game at the beginning of January. So it's a 30-minute cap, you can play.
First game was 30 minutes.
And so you came on. How did it feel when you were on there to be finally back playing, doing what you love, and all the hard work and every single thing that you'd been through, you could get to that moment and play? Like, football just brings me so much joy. Like, I feel so fulfilled, and I'm just at my happiest when I've got a ball at my feet. And I honestly I just felt so proud of myself. And like, I don't care if that sounds really big-headed, but I think it's well deserved.
I honestly, like, that was the goal, was if I can only ever play one more time and cross that line one more time, then I've done it. And that was the moment where I did it, and I'm able to kick on from there, which is great. But yeah, I was overwhelmed. I felt really emotional because when I came on, like, all my teammates,
you got rousing cheer,
stopped and proper like applauded me, and like I was really taken aback.
Yeah, it was quite a moment. Yeah, it's a long journey to get there as a destination.
Yeah, it was really long. Like, I'd gone from being like the fastest, the fittest and the strongest to a point where I was like the slowest, the weakest, the most vulnerable person, and being able to get near enough back to where I once was like a relief. Yeah, because there was so much hard work that no one has really seen. I mean, James, my boyfriend's seen the hard work, and my parents, but so much hard work away from the field, like in the gym, and doing as much as possible to get back.
A huge amount to contend with. So what does it look like moving forward in terms of what you and Eve have been working on, is what game time you can have as you continue to come back? Yeah,
so 30, and then I can have 45, and then 70, and then 90 a whole game.
90. And is there a time frame of that, or is it
just game by game? Okay. So every game goes up. As long as I'm feeling good.
Yep.
And
as
there's
long as
no
everything
problems.
goes to plan.
Yeah.
That's the aim. Great. We'll aim for the full 90.
Definitely.
Can't wait to see that one.
Can't wait to play in it.
And so you have mentioned it, but how are you finding Burnley itself as a Burnley FC women player, the ethos at the club, the feeling within the squad? How have you adapted and settled in?
Absolutely love it. Like, honestly, it is like the best club that I've been to. Everyone, like my teammates are amazing. Like, they're great to play with, but they're just great people, like great humans, and they've been so supportive and patient. You know, like they just check in with me, like, how are you doing, how's it going, and I just feel welcomed here from like the first week that I was here. It's a really, really great place. I feel like I've got all the tools that I could possibly need here. I'm just really grateful for everything that the coaching team have supported me with.
Right. And you mentioned Eve, the physio, so you two will have worked closer than so probably the closest to Eve, like you say, on your rehab and coming back into the game. So how have you found working with her and the support that she's given you? Amazing.
Like, she's so good at what she does, and the support that she's given me from when I signed was, well, even before I officially signed, like, was the support's been amazing. Like, having like a little program to build myself back into the squad practices that was specifically tailored to my needs. Like, I feel like I've never had that anywhere else. So it's really like individual and personal. And she's incredible at her job. I really appreciate it.
Nice shout out to you. I'm sure she'll enjoy that.
Of course.
And so let's talk on the pitch in the sense of how Burnley are doing at the moment. So there's been a run of consecutive wins, cup win at the weekend, some league wins before that. How do you see the rest of the season going? If you had a crystal ball, how do you think things are going to be going?
I think it's going to be exciting. I feel like we've really started to gel now as a team, understand how each other plays. I feel like I've fit into that quite well, and I think we're going to have a really good run from now to the end of the season. It'd be great as well to get to the final of the Lancs Cup and obviously win that. Yeah, so definitely something to aim for. Okay, well, thank you, Hollie, and thank you for sharing your experience there and going into detail. I know it's something very personal to you, so we very much appreciate you talking to us. I'm sure that the squad and everyone involved, the club and the women's team, wish you all the best in terms of your recovery. It's been quite a journey you've been on, but it's fantastic to see you back on the pitch and enjoying your football. And long may that continue. Thank you very much.